Hello and welcome to This Week in Frax. Dave or
Dave.
Dave is in France, partying it up, giving
Yes.
speeches, and attending ECC and Stable Summit. So he will be back next week.
Yes. Decentralized finance David. You are missed.
So let's see. Today is, this is coming out on Friday the 21st. Let's wish Dave a happy birthday on Saturday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday. Our favorite DeFi guy.
Exactly. Saturday, July 22nd is going to be Dave's birthday. He dropped some kind of hints in Frax chat, and everybody wished him a happy birthday. Then he had to correct him to say it was the 22nd. So let's see. Let's just roll through the Bluechip stuff, and then we can move on, because this was kind of the overwhelming discussion inside the Frax chat for the last week. Did you keep up on this, kid?
For which one?
For the Bluechip stuff.
I only read I only looked at the report. I didn't really look at the community's feedback. I bet the community's pissed.
Yeah, and I just think it's a naming convention thing, honestly. I posted this on, I believe it came out on Friday last week. Sam wasn't too happy with it at first, but we did the article on Monday. I think it's still very contentious. Actually, you know what? When I read their story, Bluechip, they came out of the same reasons, or they had the same reasons that we started Flywheel, that they started Bluechip, which was to kind of help the stablecoin space reestablish itself as a rating agency, and to keep people from losing money. And obviously we have hitched our horses to Frax, but I think what they're doing is really important. I just think that it's the first go around. It just launched. Obviously, not everybody's going to be happy, but you know what? They're making changes, and that's, I think, the most important thing. So just to go over the whole thing, they came out with this. They have this rating called SMIDGE, and SMIDGE stands for Stability, Management, Implementation, Decentralization, Governance, and Externals. So only 4 of them are actually used right now, and that's stability management, governance, and decentralization. So when it was launched, there was a lot of good things that came out of it, right? So they did some very in-depth look at Frax and all the other stable coins, and tried to get as much information in a data-driven way as possible to be able to fill out these ratings, which they did, right? Like, if you look at the reviews, they're very well done. They gather as much public information as they can, and then they put it into these papers. And the one sticking point that came up really quickly was the stability rating. The stability rating gave stablecoins like LUSD and RAI, which are not pegged to, or I mean, they're pegged to $1, but they're pretty much floating, right? They're not trying to stay against $1. So because there's that volatility in there, they're stable in the sense of your debt levels are stable, but the tokens themselves are not stable. And so Sam had a really big issue with this. He said that Frax is 100 times more, 1,000 times more stable than LUSD is. Our slippage is always better. But I think that kind of missed the point, where Ethereum, the creator of the rating system, came to chat, explained it, and all he said over and over and over was look, the only thing that we're really looking at is the ability of someone who either borrows $1, creates this position, or is holding that asset to return the value that they have. That's the only thing we're looking at. Can they get their money back, and are they going to be rugged at any point? And when you use that model, other things like the daily volatility don't really matter that much, because you're looking more at reserves and smart contract risk and
right, it's the baseline.
Yeah, exactly. I think if they just named it resilience instead of stability, and stability would have been inside resilience, it would have been a much easier pill to digest. But when you say stability, the first thing that people's minds go to is the stability of the asset, which inherently is the volatility of the asset.
Right.
And Sam kept going on and on about how Bluechip had given LUSD this like very high stability rating because LUSD is almost never on peg. And I will say that one thing that they did add, and I'll bring this up right now in here, is that this little red thing was added after the fact, probably because of the discussions with Sam, right?
Yeah,
So
I see it too.
yeah, so they added this. It says LUSD often trades above $1, right? And they only guarantee redemption value of $1 per LUSD. So users who buy LUSD above $1 are warned that they could incur a small loss if the market price drops below their purchase price, and so they advise buying LUSD above $1. Which is, they're working. That's that shows that they're actually like listening to the community there. So this went on and on and on. I just don't think that until they change the name of the stability rating to something else like resiliency or something, I think that the issue will sustain itself, and there will continue to be like a little bit of tension between the Bluechip rating people and Sam.
Can I just ask, does it matter? Are these guys really big? Like, is everyone kind of pointing, or is it just another report out there?
It has a lot of big backers, right? So let me pull up the page.
Yeah, I see some big names on there.
Yeah, some really big advisors, and some well-known people in the crypto space. So they have 4 top economists at GMU: Tyler Cohen, Robert Hansen, Alex Tabarrok, and Lawrence White. All very respected in the fields that they have, and very well known. And then in addition, Amin from Spank Chain is also on there, and Nick Carter as well too from Castle Isle Ventures. So a very distinguished group of people have made this, and it also has donations from Rune Christensen of MakerDAO, Naveen Freeman of Reserve, Eli Ben Sanson from Starkware, and also Reserve donated as well too. Oh, look, they added how much they actually donated, so that's an addition as well too. So pretty awesome to see this. Looks like it was mostly funded by Reserve, or at least they had large donations from Reserve, because they are a nonprofit.
Oh, I see.
But I think what they're doing is good. I mean, I'm sure it's just going to take some time. Most of Frax's poor rating comes from the lack of a governance score, and that's essentially just that the team has a multisig, right? That's a 3-5 multisig that's controlled by the 5 core team members, and until that changes, the score is always going to be low because a 0 heavily affects your rating. Once they get rid of that, the score will probably immediately go up to like a B or B plus, even like an A.
No, I think it might go to a C because I am comparing it to DAI right now, and DAI is like 0.79 for the S, and then 1. You can do 2 screens, but I think we may go to a C plus because what's M stands for again?
Management. But we actually have a higher stability score than them. I don't like our management might even go up to 1. And governance at that point maybe goes to the 8. I think our governance goes to like the 80s or 90s based on how I read the thing. I think they got some parts about the distribution of Frax shares wrong. So like one thing that they said about decentralization was that the core team controls the majority of the voting power, but that's not true. I mean, Convex owns most of the Frax shares, right?
Yeah.
So look, I think there's some stuff to clean up. Obviously, this is just like a first version, but it will change and it will update. And I believe that within 3 to 6 months, a year, it'll be probably the gold standard of stablecoin information.
Wow. Okay.
Well, look, I mean, they're trying to do what we're doing in FrxCheck across the entire industry, right? Which is like a noble cause.
Yeah. No.
While staying as neutral as possible. I think it's a hard job. I think it's a very hard job. But we need more of this, right? Like if this had come out during Terra Luna, would we have had the same kind of? I think that's the main question to ask is like, is it good for the space on a whole, even though it gets some things wrong, right? And the ratings might be a little bit off, right? Ratings can always change, especially as the product grows. And if you look at the complete and utter collapse of UST last year, would some people have looked at this if they had that information and turned away from UST and put their money in different stable coins and not lost money?
I don't think so, but
that's a good question. I think, if it helped one person, then it's probably doing its job, right?
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. The benchmark is one person. Then maybe. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next topic.
All right, yeah. So that's enough for that. What else do we have? Oh yeah, we also had this awesome risk assessment that was created by PrismaRisk. Did you read through this?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
So this is probably the most in-depth analysis of stake FrxETH that anyone has done so far. It is a extremely dense and long analysis of everything about the protocol, about how stake FrxETH works, from like a protocol perspective, about how it functions, how the system architecture works, to performance, like usage metrics, competitive analysis, like market risk, going into like volatility analysis, liquidity analysis, technological risk, talking about smart contracts and oracles, product layers, counterparty risk, and even gets into like legal as well too, like legal structuring of Frax. Like I don't think I've seen too many people go into this before this deep.
I think this is sick. See, I think something like this, I think is much more valuable than something like what Bluechip had done.
Well, did you read Bluechip's report?
That's a good point. No, I didn't.
Okay. Bluechip's report is like very detailed, and they spend a lot of time getting all the information together. It may not be 100% correct, but they definitely put the work in to understand the entire protocol. Yeah. So PrismaRisk put this out, and they came to a nice conclusion. So they ranked stake FrxETH as excellent on liquidity. And we already knew this, right? Yeah. Excellent on volatility. Again, because the curve AMOs, obviously we knew this already. Good on smart contract because it's undergone one audit, but the contracts have only been on mainnet since October 2022, and they're still immature. So for dependencies, it's only okay on dependencies because there's no highly reliable price feed. On decentralization, it's just okay because there's a significant trust assumption, obviously because of the team running the nodes.
That's fair.
Right? They have $437 million worth of user funds. But FrxGov is coming, and FrxETH v2 as well too. And then on legal, they say it's susceptible to enforcement actions due to centralization of core managing functions in hands of a few team members. Yet it has not formed any legal entity or implemented any sanctions compliance measures. I think that's wrong, right? So one of the things that Bluechip actually said, which I found interesting, was that Frax has a Cayman entity which holds the rights to Frax. So I think that this part is wrong on the legal, but I may be wrong. They may be right here. So their overall assessment is that stake FrxETH performs well on market risk factors, so liquidity and volatility, and poor on counterparty risk factors, obviously, because there's a multi-sig. They say that Frax places a focus on ensuring deep liquidity, right? And that once FrxETH v2 comes out, and also once FrxGov comes out, they say that stake FrxETH may become the most desirable LSD from a risk perspective. It's pretty cool.
Good way to cap it off.
Yeah. But then the next sentence, they say, until then, there's a substantial counterparty risk and it is recommended to limit protocol exposure to stake FrxETH as collateral asset. Which,
I mean, this is a matter of time. Like that's just a matter of time.
I don't disagree with that, right? Like if you're a large fund with hundreds of millions of dollars, like you're taking a risk on five guys with a multi-sig, So I think that there is risk there. Once FrxETH comes out, it'll be a different story, and we'll probably be at the top of the rankings for everything, as we should be.
Yes. We are biased. This is a Frax podcast.
This is a Frax podcast, yeah. Some listings this week. Huobi listed.
Yeah, that was cool.
Frax shares, right? Mm-hmm. Dave gave a speech, which I'm currently figuring out uploading and getting the YouTube thumbnails. So we'll publish that probably tomorrow. IQ Wiki did a they're like our biggest fans. Yeah, they did a little
recap,
where they talked about like a summary of Dave's speech, and it's like, wait, is it all Arizona? And it always has been. So this was about Dave's stablecoin maximalism speech. We've heard this before, but I'm sure he added some new stuff. We're going to be talking about his speech next week. But nice little summary by IQ Wiki.
Yeah.
Let's see what else happened. So the fractional vault is still growing. It has 2.16 million of TVL, and it is earning, I think
7% real yield plus the
So
plus the SOM.
Speaking of crazy yields, the phantom yields are just insane right now. Grills, I believe Grills posted this in the chat, and this is all because of the multi-chain stuff. So if you want to take some Frax over to like Phantom, the yields are insane. Like 972% for Frax Phantom pair.
Wow.
Phantom stake FrxETH is getting 1,200%. That's crazy. That's 3% a day.
Wow. Paid in what?
I don't really know. But there's only $12,000 of TVL there, so beware.
Oh, okay.
It's not like it's a few million, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
But like new DEX is being launched. We don't know about the safety of that at all.
Do not go.
Just be aware. Just be aware.
Yeah. Sam, actually, I wanted to ask you: do you know if how active is Frax on Arbitrum? I haven't been paying attention on the L2 stuff for Frax.
$30 million worth of Frax assets on Arbitrum.
Yeah, but aside from that, like, do you know if the whole Flywheel is kind of like working over there with the meta pool, base pool kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, like the base pool is multi-chain.
Right, it's multi-chain. Day one. Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to this was actually scary yesterday. Market started to dip. Frax shares started to go down a little bit. All of a sudden I throw on FraxFacts just to like look up some information about some stuff. And I see this. The largest the largest Frax share borrower with 180,000 Frax shares borrowing 750,000 Frax is at an LTV of 71, and which I believe the price was at like $6.10 yesterday, and his liquidation price was like $5.90. I posted this.
Did he adjust it?
Yeah. Within like 3 minutes of me posting it, like he starts to go.
Good man.
Starts to collect some stuff, and now he's paid down about $250,000 worth of debt. I just checked today.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And he's sitting at a much better place. So he started. This was just yesterday. He's down to 540, I believe. So he can still come down more.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's good. I mean, obviously, this is not financial advice, but I definitely bid it some. I basically have ladder bids from 6 all the way down to 5, because the protocol is going to come in and sweep at 5, right? Yeah, exactly. That was the thing.
So that happened. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, did you read Sam's very long comments on the SEC Ripple case?
Yeah, I did. That was very curious to me, just because obviously Frax never did an ICO, which I thought that was thank goodness, because during that time frame it was almost okay for them to kind of do something like that, or at least some kind of mining program or something. So I'm glad they didn't. And like in general though, like this ruling really just flipped the SEC on its head, right? This sets like a massive precedent, not just for Frax, right? For a ton of other projects too. So it's good for the space as a whole. But yeah, but what do you think, Sam?
I talked about this with Alex Golubitsky on Leviathan the other day.
Okay.
It's important to remember that this was just a pre-trial motion to dismiss. Okay. And it was a summary pretrial motion to dismiss, which means that Ripple is trying to get the entire case thrown out based on the arguments that they're making. And so the judge denied the dismissal, which means that it's going to go to court and they're going to have a trial for it now. But she had to make some comments about like this dismissal, right? And so the important part about her comments is that she got rid of this embodiment idea that the token embodies being a security. And she said, no. We have to look at these transactions individually, and each transaction stands on its own. Not the entirety of all the transactions, but just each individual transaction. And so there was like 4 buckets. The first one was like Ripple was selling XRP to institutional investors. That is definitely a security sale.
Yep.
Right. The second one was Ripple was distributing XRP or like paying XRP as bonuses to their employees. And she said that wasn't right because for some reason, right? The third one was that, and the most important one was that XRP was programmatically selling their tokens on exchanges, and the people buying it, that's not a securities transaction because the people buying it didn't know who they were buying it from. So even though they may expect profit in the future, they're saying like, oh, Ripple could go up or down, because they don't know that they're buying it directly from Ripple, right?
That's interesting.
There's no like expectation of profit. Like they can't know, right? They can only bet one way or the other. So they can't like, they're not doing an investment. They're just doing gambling at that point. Yeah.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. So like, this is definitely going to go to trial. Maybe it goes to appeals. We talked about the appeal process at length with Alex. It would take a while. Essentially, we're looking at like this Ripple case is going to go on for like 2 to 3 more years, most likely. So, but this is good because this is like one of the first losses that the SEC's had in a while, and it will affect other cases. It is important to notice that this is just a district court. It's a Second Circuit. It's not the Supreme Court.
Right.
It's not a law.
It's going to go through 2 more rounds,
and it's just one judge. Just one judge.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. Sometimes I forget that, there's the district court, then there's the appeals court, and then there's the Supreme Court. So there's 2 chances of appeal up until the very highest court of the land.
Yeah. And that appeal process would take, like if it had to go to the Supreme Court, like we're talking 3 years, 4 years.
Right. And plus they have a docket, right? The Supreme Court's not going to hear it the moment it comes on their docket.
Right.
So
yeah.
they have
like, unless it's like constitutionally decisive, right? Like
yeah. Hot topic.
Yeah. We gotta overturn Florida or something, right?
That's true.
Like unless that's happening, like you're not gonna Supreme Court.
There's a ton of XRP holders in Florida.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's nice to see Sam doing threads. I wish he would do more.
I think he's just too busy inside the Telegram channel. Just piece it together. That's the Sam Casbot right there.
But it was great to see him doing threads. Sam's a good writer, and he understands a lot about what's happening in the space. So, very, very good that he published this. I'd like to see more.
Yeah. I think this paired nicely with our pod with Ryan, right? So when folks are curious to learn a bit more about how safe are they, and this kind of proves that it's still safe to raise money the right way in the US.
And then we had our awesome interview with Ryan this week, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's always fun to have Ryan on. I feel like having that the legal ego who's kind of also a degen a little bit. It gives us a glimpse into the inner workings of the legal system, particularly when it comes to crypto. And boy, does he have a lot of war stories.
Actually, you explaining the 4 stages of SEC investigation, or like SEC
yeah, right, the probing, yeah,
was the best clip that we've had so far.
Yes. Yes, points. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, no,
it's blowing up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, and that was thanks to our producer extraordinaire Sam to give me feedback on reining the pod in and having to reiterate what the guest had said for you guys. So thanks Sam for that.
Yeah, I was just listening to Odd Lots this morning, and that's something that I think they do really well. Is that like as soon as things get complicated, you just stop it, go back, and he's like, "Oh, what is going on here?" Like you just said, like 18 different things that I have no idea what you're talking about, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
But it was great. I think that if you're planning on starting a crypto project in 2023, got to listen to this podcast because you don't want to get the SEC knocking at your door.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, we had a post. Did you read this one about Drake talking about the oracles that they're using? So specifically for the Curve LP ETH FrxETH oracle, about how they designed that. That was it's a nice system. They actually have 3 oracles that they're using for it, unlike the other pools which just have 2.
Oh, that's interesting. And is this meaning that Curve LP tokens are going to be used in FraxLand soon?
I thought they already are.
Are they?
Yeah, the Curve LP,
Which pairs?
ETH FrxETH is added there. Yeah, so there's 2. There's the FrxETH ETH Curve LP, and then the Frax USDC Curve LP. So there's
oh, I see it. Okay, that's like 2 mil in there.
Mm-hmm. I see it. Yeah.
CRV Frax. Okay. I see the V3s. I see. Okay.
And let's see. And then from a governance stuff or governance roundup. So there is a new proposal to authorize Fraxlend AMO to share allocations between V1 and V3 lending pairs. They're just like updating the pairs. We asked Drake about this, and Drake essentially said like it's just some math updates. They're working on, just it's marginal updates. So it's like nothing new. It's not like huge updates between like FrxETH V1 and FrxETH V2.
I see.
Yeah. We're getting a Go Frax base pool curve gauge coming to the controller.
Hell
yeah. I wrote that one, and Nader put it up just today. It's already passed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, it'll finish up tomorrow. But that one's definitely passing. You know what? We talked about the Fraximal Vault token to the FXS controller.
Mm-hmm.
And remember how we said it probably was going to fail?
Yeah, and
yeah, it did. So nothing against like the Samier guys, like building a great product there, but like the only tokens that are in the FracShares gauge are liquidity tokens, like not
LP
vaults,
tokens,
right?
Yeah, true. I mean, it could change, right? I think you brought it up previously where maybe incentivizing certain Fraxland pairs to really drive up, say the adoption, right? Mm-hmm. Like for example, the sfrxETH Frax pair, I could totally see us incentivizing that because that would drive more people to stake FrxETH, right?
Yeah, but no, actually, I wouldn't like that. Because,
why?
Because then it's competing with the Curve ETH FrxETH gauge.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
No, that's not.
So maybe we'll do the FrxETH pair The FrxETH Frax pair.
No, the only one that I could think of adding as a gauge controller would be for stake FrxETH as collateral, and then a WETH deposit. Because the assumption
To
is
borrow
that
what?
to borrow ETH. So you deposit you're depositing stake FrxETH as collateral, and then you're borrowing ETH. Yeah. So I actually I don't want to talk about it. I came up with an idea for a proposal, and let me just run this by you, right? Because I talked to Sam about it. He said it was probably okay. It wasn't like resounding support, but I talked to like some other people and got mixed feedback on it. So I'm probably going to sit on it right now. But I really think it's pretty awesome what the Frax AMO does for Fraxlin. So we can mint new Frax, and then you can borrow against it in the Fraxlin AMO. And that Frax is like new. The protocol mints it, but it only comes into circulation once someone borrows against it.
Correct.
So let's just swap Frax out as the AMO asset and replace it with FrxETH. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now we essentially are adding pairs. So I believe it would be like an RETH pair as collateral and wrapStakeETH as collateral, where you can deposit those two assets and then you can borrow through the AMO. So like the AMO would put ETH, or like put FrxETH, not ETH, but FrxETH that's unminted into these controllers, right? Or sorry, through the Fraxlin AMO into the either sfrxETH pool or the RETH pool, and then you could borrow against that in minimal amounts. We're talking like, so you know how there's an allocation, right? Now we have like two. So for the FrxETH AMO on Curve, there's like the original pool, like the FrxETH ETH pool, which has up to 100% allocation, right? And a minimum of 50% allocation. And then there's the sfrxETH pool, which has like a 0 to 50 min max allocation. So my idea was to just create like this lending protocol, but like limit it to like 5 or 10%. So we could bootstrap the market for for like FrxETH inside of Fraxlin.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the minting of FrxETH. Like, so for people to borrow FrxETH.
Yeah, so they deposit RETH as collateral and they borrow FrxETH.
And the reason why they're able to borrow the FrxETH is because the protocol is able to mint
a little bit.
FrxETH against the RETH effectively that was locked in the collateral.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not a ton, but just like a little bit, and like enough to bootstrap the market, so then other people would come in and start adding their assets into it.
And other people would LP or would provide liquidity for FrxETH.
Like, other people would start adding their own FrxETH in. Because the question is like, I think Fraxlin should be much more diverse. Is kind of what I've always felt. Like we should have, more pairs to trade against. Like, I think people would like a stake FrxETH ETH pair. I think people would like. I mean, obviously, based on the voting, like my vote that I put up for like a deposit stake FrxETH borrow sfrxETH.
Yeah,
that one passed. So there's demand for that. People want to loop.
Yeah.
Question is like, should Frax explicitly allow it or endorse it, right? And in what sense? Because you can loop. You can go to Metronome. So Green Jeff and his stuff. You can go to Metronome. You can loop, or you could go to Aave or something like that. But I don't know. I
mean, but this is the first time there's the highest yield. I mean, Aave did that with ETH and sfrxETH, right? And that's what caused the whole sfrxETH explosion. Like that led to a lot of sfrxETH growth. So I would imagine it would do the same for FrxETH if we do that kind of pair as FrxETH sfrxETH. You just keep on looping, selling your sfrxETH for FrxETH, and then redepositing
Yeah.
it into sfrxETH and then borrow more seth,
Yeah,
then you're
exactly.
really just betting on the interest rate. But then why wouldn't you want to do it with sfrxETH? Is it even better?
Well, I think I've the general sentiment I think that I've heard in chat is that like people immediately say is like, why would anybody uh, lend their ETH for less than what they can stake it? But I think that's wrong. I think people will deposit ETH because like I have friends that are sitting on ETH and they've asked me about stake FrxETH, about like, like I'm kind of
I
worried.
agree.
I don't really
I
know.
agree.
I don't want to like I'm like the most risk averse person you could think. But
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you because then a lot of people in the Frax chats are already so proficient.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And those guys have different. Everyone has a different risk profile on top of that.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I think there's some people who have like ETH on a really good cost basis, and if you swap into FrxETH, that's like I believe it's a sale. I'm pretty sure
it's
it's a
taxable.
sale. Is it
Oh,
taxable?
really?
I don't know. I mean, it's like it's an argument, right? Like,
I do actually maybe because I remember when they did BTC into WBTC, some people got 1099 for that.
yeah, I don't think
So
like so the wrapping. I don't think the wrapping is because the thing about the
it's the same
wrapping
thing,
is that
no?
you retain the uh, what is it called? Uh, is like you retain the asset, right? As wrap BTC. So there's nothing like if you take a house and you wrap it in a new legal wrapper, does it change the substance of the house? Like, is there something that's happened differently here? No, I don't think so. And I think that's the argument for like wrapping, where it wouldn't be a taxable event. I'm not an accountant, and
Yeah,
obviously, like, it's
yeah.
better if you like have one. But this is what I think for like the wrapping. Wrapping is just wrapping. Like moving back and forth between WETH and ETH is not a taxable event. But um, since there is something different about stake FrxETH or even sTETH as well too, I think there is.
No, so I think the stake FrxETH part is the FrxETH to sTETH. Sorry, the FrxETH to stake FrxETH.
Mhm.
That part I'm not sure, but I am pretty sure the wrapping and unwrapping of from either ETH to WETH or ETH to FrxETH, it would be very parallel to WBTC to BTC.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's very parallel.
Yeah, I wish we had better rules on this. I mean, it's all a little bit up in the air. But I just yeah. So like
Uh-huh.
these like a more diverse Fraxland market, I think eventually will come. It has to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's risks that are associated with all these things.
Agreed.
But what would be really nice, the thing that is going to come is a deposit stake FrxETH borrow sTETH and then dump and repeat ad nauseum.
Yes.
With a super high LTV. We're talking like 98% LTV. So you can get near 50x leverage. That is.
But the question is there going to be the slider that allows me to choose my leverage and then it just auto lose for me?
Hey, Drake, like, it's like, I know you're working on the UI.
Yeah.
All the
Let's
other
bring back the
stuff
DGen box.
He knows. I've
Yeah.
like, he knows about like the whole looping thing.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, but let's play out the second order effects, right? Let's say the sTETH ETH pool just gets completely smashed because people are just coming in there and just dropping a ton of sTETH, borrowing ETH, then staking it into or wrapping it into FrxETH and then staking it into sfrxETH. It could be lopsided pretty quickly if you're able to just constantly loop, right?
Yeah, potentially, but that like that sTETH is like has the main sTETH curve pool, sTETH ETH has like $300 million, so I don't think it can get that far out.
Well, but then remember, for the first time, it was you could collateralize sTETH and then borrowed ETH, and then that means for the Aave pair, it actually is conducive to the curve pool because people are going to dump more ETH into this pool and take out the sTETH.
Yeah.
But whereas what we're doing is like we're going to dump sTETH in there and then take out the ETH. So we're doing the reverse of what the Aave pool, the Aave pair did.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past a lot of people to take that opportunity and just basically vampire attack all of that liquidity over.
You know what? Like sTETH is like 32 times the market cap of what FrxETH is right now,
Right.
I don't think it can happen. Like if we were similar and this was happening on a very large scale, like potentially yes, but like, you know, we're probably going to have like I don't know. Let's see how this pool goes first.
Let's see.
Hopefully successful. RETH would come next. Like deposit stake FrxETH, borrow RETH, probably even better as a pair.
Right, because lower yield, right?
Exactly.
The bigger spread.
Yeah. What do you think about a shorting pool where you deposit Frax and borrow ETH or FrxETH?
I am going to say yes, because why not?
Yeah, because then you're essentially short ETH at that point.
Or there is an option for you to short ETH, and whoever wants to take that pool. Because right now you can't do that in Frax, in Fraxland, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, so more diverse Fraxland, I believe, is the way to go. But you know, the team is very conservative, and I applaud them for that. And you know, maybe somebody else will build it. So it'll come.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And all right, Sam, you want to sign us out?
Oh yeah. Can you do how's Dave usually in these things?
The way he usually ended is he would segue in right here. And if you want to keep up with everything that is going on with Flywheel, make sure you smash that subscribe button. We'll be here every Friday for this week's in Frax, and Frax Check every other Tuesday, and obviously our flagship podcast every Wednesday, dropping it like it's hot. And Sam, any last words for the audience?
That was pretty good. I like that.
Nice. And you can follow me at 0xcapital_K.
And you can follow me at traders_insight.
And make sure you go to flywheeldefi.com and subscribe to all of that alpha. And we'll see you next week. Peace.